Why do we watch sports? Well, it's kind of an escape from everyday life. It gives us something to cheer for, and it can be a major centerpiece for just having a good time. But occasionally, sports also gives us a little taste of something that can, at least temporarily, make us forget all about the fun and the thrill of the game. And that something is...
5 minutes.
The problem with making a top 5 list about the best hits in sports is that I can't have possibly seen every major hit in every major sport. Going in, I had a small idea of what the greatest might be, but basically all I could do to research this topic was park my butt in front of the internet and spend a number of hours watching every greatest hits of whatever sport video I could find. There's no major criteria for this one. The hit just has to be entertaining or lead to something entertaining and
violent.
So, put on your beer hat and giant foam finger, sit back and enjoy the random top 5 best sports hits. Okay, for the rest of my picks I'm going to try to give details about what's going on, such as who's getting hit, what teams are playing, etc. But for number 5, I just couldn't figure it out. I could only find one clip of the play, and the quality is too low for me to get a positive ID on who this is or what team this poor fellow's from. I can guess that this is some NCAA football game, but I don't know. Nonetheless, this is one of the most amazing hits I've ever seen in the game of football. I mean, look at it. The guy gets hit in midair, flips over backwards, lands on his head, and bounces all in the same play. It's like something you would see intentionally choreographed in a sports movie. Ugh, I sure hope this poor guy didn't break his neck. This one happened fairly recently, if I remember correctly. Reggie Bush of the Saints gets absolutely dropped by Sheldon Brown of the Eagles. This is just a perfect example of how dangerous full momentum can be. Any hit that can ground Reggie Bush like this and keep him there deserves to be on this list. Man, I don't know why, but I never get tired of seeing that hit. Maybe it's just because I'm aware of who it was that got hit. I mean, Reggie Bush is usually about as movable as a Humvee being driven by an elephant. But the way he just gets lifted off his feet the moment he gets hit, it's like the football equivalent of the Mona Lisa, just another masterpiece in the art of physics. When I talk about big hits in the world of stock car racing, you'd probably think of some huge crash, flames, wreckage, and debris everywhere, right? Well, a crash is a crash, but if there's one way to make a hit in sports more entertaining, then that's for it to be completely unexpected. For instance, would you ever expect to see a driver drop kick another driver through his windshield? That's what happened at a racetrack in Ohio. Driver Michael Simcoe quite literally drop kicked another driver, Don St. Dennis, for spinning him out during the race. The best part about this is that it led to a fight between the two men after St. Dennis got out of his car after having been pummeled by Simcoe and charged the man who was being led away. It's nice to see that even racing isn't left out of the loop when it comes to occasional brawls. Personally, I think that baseball hits are more commonly accidental collisions rather than intentional takedowns. However, when you get Pete Rose involved, nothing is accidental. There are two things that I love about this hit. The first is that it's almost something you'd expect to see in the sport of football. Pete was at the peak of his momentum and just Hulk smashed his way right through whoever was unlucky enough to be standing between him and home plate. Second, this one hit perfectly exemplifies everything that Pete Rose was about. The guy always gave 150% and always did whatever it took to get the job done. Say what you want about what he did afterwards, but when he was on the field, nothing would stand between him and what he wanted. And that's your proof right there. Number 1 takes place at a Pistons-Pacers game when an otherwise normal game escalated into an all-out brawl between players and fans. It all started when Ron Artest of the Pacers fouled Ben Wallace of the Pistons, this soon escalating into a shoving match and then a small brawl between the teams. Just as things were calming down, someone threw a cup of liquid at Ron Artest, who was resting on the announce table after the brawl. This seemed to reawaken the drive to punch something within Artest as he rushed the fan that he thought threw the cup. The stadium erupted into a frenzy of players attacking fans and vice versa as punches were thrown, peanuts were thrown, drinks were thrown, chairs were thrown, just about everything that could be lifted was thrown at somebody. This mayhem forced an early end to the game. By now you've seen quite a number of hits between players, fans, and what have you, but which one is the one that I'm calling number 1? Ironically enough, the hit that made number 1 on my list was the least lethal of any of the hits exchanged that night. The cup that struck Ron Artest. I think that most people agree that if it hadn't been for the person throwing that cup, the relatively small brawl that initially occurred would have been resolved and the game would have finished. Instead, just one more spark was added to the dying fire, and before long the game became a riot. In my opinion, any hit that can bring a game to an end for any reason deserves to be number 1.